Hi, I'm Mike from Flywheel, and we are going to get started today. Thank you so much for joining. Before we get into the presentation, a few housekeeping items. You'll be on mute during the presentation just to keep the noise to a minimum, but you can ask questions in the chat window, and then after the 40-minute presentation, there'll be some Q&A time where I'll open up the conference bridge and you can ask questions. So a little bit about our agenda. I'm going to talk a little bit about Flywheel. We're going to dig into some history about what got us to less efficient sales and marketing than I think is possible. And then we're going to talk about a case study, and then we're going to give you some practical tools on how to get more from your sales and marketing investment. A little bit about Flywheel. We're located in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We're in the Zeal Center for Entrepreneurship. So if you're ever in town, we'd love to meet you. We have been around since 2008. A little bit about our history. We sold off-the-shelf CRM software from Sugar CRM, Microsoft, and Salesforce for a number of years. And then in 2017, we decided to focus 100% of our energy on manufacturing. It's been a really great move for us. We've been able to add more value and learn our customers' businesses much more intimately. And we'll talk a little bit today about what we've learned about manufacturing and how we think manufacturers can use technology to compete more efficiently. So first, we got to do some history. If you look way back to the beginning of what I would call industrial manufacturing, the first major innovation we see is the idea of interchangeable parts. Before that, everybody made parts custom, so blacksmiths would create a custom sword or a custom wheel for your needs. And back in the 1850s, the idea of interchangeable parts happened. And this was a major innovation because it allowed the customer to know what to expect when they purchased a product. And it also allowed each product to be produced much more cost effectively. As that started to scale, you started to see things like process charts as that flow of building those interchangeable parts started to grow, and the businesses that produced them went from just a few people to a large number of people, which turned into assembly lines. And Henry Ford is really the one who innovated there. And the idea was the more of one thing you could produce, the more cost effectively you could produce it. And the Model T Ford was an example of that. The first vehicle that was affordable for the everyday American family. And the advent of the assembly line and creating a lot of things that looked the same was a big innovation. However, change started to accelerate in World War II, and manufacturing became less of a single assembly line, and you started to need more tools to respond to what the market needs, because the market started to change more quickly. So really what I mean by that specifically is before Henry Ford and the assembly line happened, it was all one-off. Then it went to this mass production. And so if you bought a vehicle back then, and this is one in the 70s even, you would basically get a choice of colors, but the vehicle would essentially be the same. It would have the same wheels, it would have the same lights, it would have the same motor. Maybe there's a choice of one or two motors, but it was largely the same piece of equipment, and that was true in industrial America. What we're seeing more recently is what we're calling the mass customization era. So that same pickup truck, this is a Dodge Ram, now has a off-road tow package. It has a upgraded audio system. You can customize your bed. You can even customize the hitch on your bed. So as a result of that, you can no longer, as a manufacturer, build one product and have everybody purchase that same product. You have to be able to really, in a more granular fashion, be able to meet the needs of the customer, instead of in one way trying to meet their needs exactly as they request them. Another example of this is the iPhone. When Apple first came out with the iPhone, there was one iPhone color, it was just black and white. Now you can buy any color you can imagine of iPhones. There's different sizes. This happened because Apple needed to respond to the needs of the market, and the market wanted to be able to customize their product. So once this mass customization thing happened, it became a lot more challenging for auto manufacturers to deliver product. So this is a little bit about the Toyota story. So Toyota is a Japanese company that came to America, and for many years was a minor player. But many of you probably own Toyotas today because they're great cars, they're affordable, and they're incredibly reliable. and they meet the needs of consumers today. So what happened in the early 2000s is, this is the chart of automakers, and if many of you remember back then when the United States auto market crashed, and what was interesting is that the U.S. auto market did crash, but it was effectively replaced by the Japanese auto market, and this was led by Toyota. And as the U.S. manufacturers really declined, the Japanese manufacturers really grew and took market share, and are still have retained that market share even after the U.S. automakers have somewhat recovered. So at that time when that happened, everybody went and looked at Toyota and said, what is going on with Toyota? Why are they killing us? And what we found when we went over to the Toyota factories in Japan, and they readily opened them to us, what they found is they found the Toyota production system. It was a highly developed production system that was less focused on the assembly line and more focused on the value add to the customer. And so the customer in this, this is the Toyota production system, and this is in a lot of books. If you read, if you're doing any reading, if you just search for TPS or Toyota production system, you'll see a bunch of books about this. But they put the customer at the top of their priority list, and they really focused on serving the customer with the shortest lead time, good cost, and very high quality. And they did this with just-in-time delivery and Jidoka, which is built to quality. And they've supported all that with continuous improvement. So they're always trying to continue their process, improve their process, and they empowered the people in the business to improve that process. So after we studied the Toyota production system, those people realized that, hey, there's a methodology here that could be implemented in America, and we could not only catch up, but potentially surpass what is being done over there. And what evolved out of that is what we call lean. And it was an adaptation by social scientists and academics, but also practitioners, to operationalize the TPS for many different kinds of businesses. There's a whole practice and methodology which we do follow at Flywheel around best practices for implementing lean concepts in a manufacturer. So the effects of lean have been pretty significant out in the marketplace. Studies have been done. This one is RBCI, that looked at what is the performance of a manufacturer who has implemented concepts from the Toyota production system in lean in their manufacturing outfit. And what we see is that those numbers are pretty impressive. They're much more productive. They're getting a quarter more productivity out of their people. They have less waste. They deliver on time, and they don't sit on inventory. They're using that inventory and meeting the market needs as they happen. So this is pretty compelling. And as we looked at this, we said, man, this is great. Manufacturers should be using these concepts in sales and marketing. But the problem is that when we looked at the market, we have a survey, which I'll talk about at the end. Less than 20% of the manufacturers we talked to, actually right now it's about 15%, have adopted lean in sales and marketing. So they just have not done it. So as a result, there's a lot of that same waste and challenges that traditional United States auto manufacturers have are still persist today in sales and marketing specifically. So we're obviously out to change that. So what is the impact of automation? What are we missing out on by not automating sales and marketing and not using lean in it? So this is a study from PwC. You can see here that the growth of it, and this is with sales and marketing, a lot of it is just scalability and growth. If you have solid sales and marketing, you can grow more quickly than if you don't. And PwC has this at about 25%, the delta of someone who uses automation and lean in sales versus someone who does not. So the question is, is this something you should look at? Well, what we're seeing in the sales and marketing space is that the B2B manufacturing industry has not embraced automation and lean concepts in sales and marketing for a number of reasons I'll talk about in a minute. But the result of that is that they're not growing as quickly as they could. But their belief is, and our belief is as well, is that once this technology starts to take hold, they're really going to start to see more significant growth in manufacturing. So why is this that manufacturers have not implemented lean in sales and marketing while they have in other parts of their business? And the answer is a couple of reasons. First of all is that sales and marketing folks are generally not as process or systems oriented as production is. And that's largely because of their personality traits. This is not in any way a criticism of sales and marketing folks, but they are generally more relational and communication oriented and less process oriented. And so the idea of taking a process and a methodology like the lean or Torio production system methodology and putting it in is not natively something they're going to do. I think the bigger reason is that really the tools, because technology is, or sales is so technology driven, the tools really need to adopt lean and process oriented thinking into the tools themselves. And right now, many of those software tools that are out in the marketplace haven't done that. And obviously this is something we intend to address ourselves. So our belief is that the first place we need to start is efficiency. We need to get more efficient in our sales and marketing process, eliminate waste. So that is going to be the focus of our conversation today, is eliminating waste. However, once you eliminate waste, you can move on towards becoming more effective. And the reason you have to do the efficiency first is you need to free up time for your sales and marketing staff so that they can work on more effective tactics. So an example of this is if salespeople spend all of their time logging calls and remembering to follow up with customers, it's going to be very hard for them to focus on trade show new lead follow-up, for example. You need to free up time for them to focus on the most important things, and you have to do that by cutting their workload on busy work or non-value added time. So here are the 8 wastes of sales and marketing that we see every day. We're going to go through each item in a little bit more detail. We're going to really talk about 3 things for each item. The first is what it is, some examples of waste in that area, and then solutions of how you can eliminate that waste and become more efficient in that area. So the first area is defects. We define that as any problems or incorrect information that you send to a customer. So this could be a proposal or an invoice that doesn't have the right information in it. That includes not collecting the right information of what their needs are before you deliver that proposal to them. Missing a meeting or forgetting to call back a lead. I'm sure many of you have had this happen like I have, that you promise to call a customer prospect back and then you forget. Not hitting a delivery date, whether that's because you had a production issue or you just had a scheduling issue, it still is a defect. So some solutions for this is building a process. We always recommend building a process for gathering requirements. A lot of times this is a design checklist. This can be at minimum a piece of paper that they fill out, but better yet, a form that has autofill fields that helps salespeople to be guided so they get the right information from a customer. Using a system like a CRM to set call or meeting reminders, and ideally that would be automatically based on the step of the sales process that customer is in. And then use a pull system to make sure dates are met. So make sure you have good queues back in production. This is beyond the scope of this webinar, but make sure you have good queues in production so that you know when something hits a queue, how long it's going to take to deliver. Next one is overproduction. This one sounds like more like a manufacturing item, but it's actually sales as well. Producing more than what is needed, calling a customer multiple times to get information or follow up is not something that is a good use of sales time. So creating a process where you get all the information you need on the first call or the first meeting with the customer will help you to save time and get done faster. Another one example would be manual trade show follow-up. So if you're at trade shows and you have leads and you have to follow up with each one individually rather than having some sort of an automated system that sends a thank you message, is another example. Or maybe even manually typing in business cards into your system rather than just taking a picture and having the system turn that into a lead is another example. So some solutions, we talked about the design checklist, and then we always recommend automating follow-up whenever possible. The only kind of caveat I have with this is you don't want to make it impersonal, so you want to create a message that is customizable by your salespeople so that before it goes out, maybe they can edit it or something like that. But it's key to make sure it happens. Waiting. Waiting is awful for everyone involved. No one wants to wait. Amazon has made waiting a thing of the past. They're going from 2-day shipping to 1-day shipping included in Prime. And I think the entire industry is going to start to need to match that in terms of their delivery of services. So some examples is if, waiting, salespeople need to be busy all the time. They should be busy. There's always work to do. So giving them a clear process to stay busy will help them to become more productive. So an example of that is if you don't have a queue for cross-selling and upselling, create one. So identify customers that need that buy one product or service from you and could buy another one and market to them. Another example of this is not having a list of customers that haven't been contacted in some time is another example of waiting. You should, salespeople should always know who hasn't been followed up with, and they should be able to focus on following up. And then the last one is just an unclear sales process. If everyone follows their own process to close business, you end up with people waiting, not sure what to do, not sure what to do next, or not sure how to communicate with the customer. So some examples of this, identify the types of customers that could be cross and upsold. If you sell a product that can consistently be packaged in with another product, but a customer didn't purchase that, build a list and send your salespeople to sell to them. We highly recommend tracking a last contacted date, ideally automatically, that tells you who needs to be followed up with, who hasn't been contacted in some time, who may be interested. And then lastly, of course, is just define a clear sales process. We'll talk about that at the end. Non-utilized talent. Anytime you're asking somebody to do something that is not in their wheelhouse, something they natively enjoy doing and are effective at, you're wasting resources. The challenge is in today's sales world, most salespeople are entering a lot of data. They're typing emails out in Outlook. They're oftentimes keeping track of their sales pipeline in a CRM. If they're not, maybe it's in a spreadsheet. They're entering order information in. Sometimes they have to retype the customer information. In marketing, this happens a lot with marketing lists. So you have to export a marketing list out of a system or maintain a spreadsheet to keep track of data. And sales and marketing people, their greatest skill set and talent is talking to customers and providing value to them, helping them to purchase your product and guide them along the process, not in data entry and management. So we recommend getting a system that has workflow and integration and using voice to track activity. Example of this is instead of call notes being typed, allow people to voice transcribe them. And there are tools and apps available for doing this. Ours has that capability. Always automate all your marketing list building. So connect your systems together so that you can build a cross-sell marketing list dynamically. And every time somebody purchases a product but not another product, they automatically get added to that list and an email goes to them. This should not be a manual process. And then really focus on selling time. You'll hear RMS call this pay time. Basically, that's the time that they're focused on customers, not focused on admin time. And rearrange your process so that salespeople don't have to spend time on non-selling activities. The next three I'm going to burn through quickly. Transportation, unnecessary movement of people, inventory. This is what you think of when you think of inventory. This is products sitting around. And then motion, people moving around to complete tasks when they don't need to. So some solutions. There is technology out there where you can actually build a map of customers so that you can route your salespeople to each customer in the most time efficient and mileage efficient manner. With technology now, you can send real-time information on inventory to salespeople so they know where to focus and what products they have available today. And then automate all your reminders and notifications so that you're not having to have people try to remember who to call, who to follow up with, who to engage with. And then the last one is extra processing, duplicate work that is required to complete the task at hand. So an example is manually re-entering data into multiple systems, such as Outlook, CRM, and spreadsheets. We see this almost every manufacturer that we work with. They are entering data into 2 or 3 systems. And if you have that, you're wasting time because you're not adding value re-entering data. And even worse, you've got errors in that data. So you have rework that's necessary and communication of, hey, this billing address is not correct, or I don't have the correct contact in here. So we recommend that you connect the systems together for a single view of the customer, and you also connect data throughout the process. So if you have a website lead form or a request for quote form, make sure that it sends that data dynamically into your CRM, and that the CRM can connect to your ERP so that you don't have to re-enter that data in the ERP. And then another example we talked about earlier is automate activity logging. There are tools available for tracking calls, automatically logging emails to a system so that your people don't have to try to track communication and keep up to date on it, so that you know exactly what you talked to a customer about, who talked to them, and what you discussed with them. This can cut down pretty significantly on the amount of internal time to manage a process. All right, this is an example of a 360-degree view of a customer. This is from Flywheel. So you can see here, this is a few examples of waste that are eliminated here. The first is that it's integrated with your website and ERP so that all of the data flows into this screen automatically. Because we're integrated with the ERP, you can see here that current sales information and ordering detail, which is behind the screen, is there. We can see the last time we talked to each customer, and we can see their health. We can see whether they're ordering more or less than they did last year. And this is all key because it allows you to run your process, whether it's sales or marketing, off of one sheet of music rather than everybody managing their own lists. And even if it's not our system that you use, we recommend that you get a system that can do something like this so that you cut down on that waste and help people focus more on the work at hand. So this is kind of the theoretical backbone behind what we do. I want to move now to talking about RMS Roller Grinder. They're a company in South Dakota that we work with, and they are a manufacturer of grain grinding mills for grain elevators, breweries, things like that. They are growing at double-digit pace. They are a best practices company who's very focused as a team on continuous improvement, on the customer, and on delivery. And we've had the privilege of working with them. So what we did with RMS is we first performed an efficiency assessment. I'll show you an example of this in a minute. We reviewed their process to find waste in it. We identified low-hanging fruit, and then we eliminated it. So this is the sales efficiency report that we offer to anyone who would like one. It's a 15-minute online assessment. I'll send the link out to everyone after the webinar. Once you go through that assessment, you get a score. You get basically you versus the industry average, and then best practices, the most effective companies that we've met. And those, we define that really specifically as companies that are experiencing double-digit growth and their margins are above the national average for manufacturers. And you can see here, you'll get scored in a bunch of different areas, sales and marketing efficiency and effectiveness. And then you'll get specific recommendations of things that may be able to be improved. That's the first thing we did with RMS, and we confirmed, yep, there's an opportunity here for us to improve there. Specifically, salespeople weren't working on the most effective activities, so we wanted to improve that. So next, what we did is what we call a process map, and this is what one looks like. Don't focus on all the shorthand and details here, but the basic idea is we went through their process and identified each step, who is doing it. We identified the lead time, cycle time, and then what we see here is NVAT, which is non-value added time, which is wasted time. And we looked at which systems they had and what the challenges were in those systems. This helped give us a sort of a benchmark starting point of their current state and what we could do to improve it. And what we did is we worked on low-hanging fruit, and we used continuous improvement for doing that. So these are some things we identified that could be improved, streamlined, and automated. And we thought this was a super important step in the process because it gives us the ability to, to really have a starting point that allows us to be more effective. Right. I want to do a real quick video here that gives you an idea of what we worked on together and some of the outcomes we're able to achieve. This is Blake, who's the VP of Sales, who I'm talking with here.
With the company for 5 years. I started as a process engineer, really working on the production side. And as a position came open, I worked my way into sales, and then sales came into managing and leading it. And so right now, what I do for the team is I lead and manage the overall sales team and really the customer experience. And there's been just consistent growth year over year as we've continued to really sharpen our focus, define our processes, grow our customer base, and really try to focus on building a great team and hopefully positively impacting their lives. The biggest challenge that we faced was it was about 1.5 years ago. We were trying to increase sales, and so we had a process which was a very manual process, moving work orders through on a paper we had was not scalable because it was really manual and required a lot of like tribal knowledge. If this happens, then this has to happen. How do we get rid of some of the administrative side? How do we get rid of some of that tribal knowledge that you just acquire after years of being here or having to make mistakes, and make it more automated, simplified, and hopefully more accurate? Hiring an administrative person to just do paperwork is non-value add. But looking at it like, can you get it out there without having to have someone dedicated to that service? And so that was kind of the first reason why we looked at it. Like, how do we make it so our salespeople can sell more, yet have less administrative time and not have to add that administrative person yet? One of the things that the team has told me the biggest benefit is just linking our emails directly to Flywheel. As we email and correspond with clients and stuff like that, it's almost creating a history log or a thread. And they've said like how much just that little change, how much time it really saved them. It just automatically did it. And it happens in the background and you don't even realize it and notice it. Like just little things like that were really what pointed it out for them. And so what we have seen is we've seen the ability to have more pay time. And on an average, we're averaging about 30 minutes to an hour more a day for team members right now. Lean can and absolutely should be applied to all aspects of business. How good are we at communicating what's going to happen, how it's going to happen? Is the process relatable and understandable? Do we have the right parts and everything like that? So by automating that and making it more present for our team to be able to pull it up and stuff like that, we should yield higher NPS scores. Automation and information readiness is key to that. The alternative that we looked at that we actually considered was implementing an ERP system, which is hundreds of thousands, if not, millions of dollars to implement it, because that's the same idea of being able to do workflows within an ERP system. And as we looked at what that would take to do, the cost of it, and knowing that it was our process is an ever evolving thing, made it really unattractive. So that was where we can come in with something that's more customizable. And that was something that was really appealing to me from a price point, customizable, and we could fit to our business model. The relationship that you guys working with us, the response and stuff like that, that's definitely a 10. Your guys' customer service side is a 10. Your guys' willingness and ability to kind of customize it to fit our business model is what's made it really attractive.
So RMS is an outstanding customer example of what you can do in sales. And so just a little bit of what we were able to accomplish with them. The first thing is their non-utilized talent or underutilized talent. We were able to drive that number down by between 30 minutes and an hour by cutting out busy work. Extra processing, we were able to cut their data re-entry time by about 95%. They were spending a huge portion of that 30 minutes to 1 hour a day doing things that were essentially just data entry tasks, and we were able to eliminate that. And then when we automated a lot of key data entry points, such as the lead capture and routing from their website, design checklists, invoicing, and other notification-related things, we were able to automate. So the result of all this was a 6-figure reduction in their cost per deal, which allowed them to add a significant portion of new revenue to their business without having to hire any new people. So Flywheel has already paid for itself, and it's been in there for less than a year. So if you're interested in getting started and learning a little bit more about this process, our recommendation is that you do a sales efficiency assessment. This is the same tool we use for customers who buy our services, but also ones who don't. They just need pointers of where to go to eliminate waste and get more efficient. With the assessment, you'll get a report. It's about a 15-page report that it helps you to see areas you could improve. And it also gives you specific areas and action items that based on your responses, maybe items you could address, sometimes at no cost, that would help you improve your effectiveness as an organization. That's all we have today. I'll now open it up, and if anyone has questions on the presentation today, we'll be happy to answer that. Or if you'd like, you can email me at the email address below, and I'm happy to answer any questions that come out of it if you think of them a little bit later. Thanks again for your time today. Appreciate the opportunity to present to you.